Hi, I'm Georgia Broaders and I'm going to talk to you about my final show, which is called Beyond Flesh. I've selected a small amount of images just to illustrate where I was going and what I would have done for the final show. I started to look extensively at yoga positions and how I could try and capture or reflect the internal energy of the body through a visual form. And this took two different branches. One branch is the soak stones. The image that I've got is not the final image I would have taken, as there are pieces that I've placed on it and I would have had them presented without those pieces. So the image that you can see are three of the soak stones. I would have done 7, and colour was important because they were related to the chakras. So I created the shapes by drawing round a selection of different people in the yoga pose Balasana, and then I filled in the shape by placing the canvas, which is unprimed canvas, on the floor, and then pouring watered down oil paint, which I watered down with linseed oil and turpentine. This allowed the paint to move more freely along the canvas, and I got this kind of bleed, which I tried to encourage, as I felt like this sort of spoke of a relationship to the body with a kind of bodily fluid or an aura that was captured in the shape and in the kind of blurred or bled edges. So yeah, this is unprimed canvas with oil paint and linseed oil and turpentine. I wanted them to be hung and they would be eye level with the viewer in the space, and they are one-to-one dimension with the human. The next piece that I'm going to talk about are the sculptures. These were formed through using fine weave muslin, which I placed around a circular pipe, and I layered up the fine weave muslin, and I wanted to create a sort of shell. And this, for me, was a really important process. And the process was where, again, I was drawing around people and creating the shape. And from this, there was an abstraction of the shape. It became an abstract sculptural piece. The material itself is important, and I wanted it to be organic. I also was really interested in the diaphanous and transparent quality to the fine weave muslin. I made sure that around the edges it was kind of worn, and I was trying to create a language of this sort of worn journey of the inner experience that was reflected in the sculpture. The other aspect to the sculptural pieces is that the inside of it, which you can see, was where I'd done drawings of figures, and these oil paint drawings of figures I then shredded and knotted into macrame. And this again was really important with process, because the outer figure became the inner abstraction, and they kind of, for me, resembled intestines or inner bodily again. So there's this movement of outer and inner, and the figurative and the abstraction. And so these opposites began to emerge through this process that I became particularly interested in. And particularly the material, I began to try and create a language through which I was reflecting these energies in the body. The next image are some maquettes that I had in the studio, and I feel like these are really close to the way that I would have hung the work for the final show. So there's a selection of 4 of the shells, and then within them the shredded macrame, which were figures that I painted. The last 2 images that I will just put up for you to see are ones that I started to work on in my studio post-lockdown. Now the difference to me here is the materials. So you can see in one of them there's a wire cage, and so as I made the decision that I wanted the materials to be organic, when I was in lockdown it became impossible for me to get those, so I worked with what I had. But there was something I found that I still was able to reflect the process that I was going through and the qualities that I wanted, with the reflection of a body, or the inner experience of a body, the essence of a body. And again, I've got the shredded sort of flesh tones on the first image. Next image that I've got up, there's, I think, second from the left, is another piece that I made. The outer shape is a paper maquette, and the shape of that was important. This kind of curved shape where you can kind of see in and you kind of can't, and there's again this interesting relationship between the inner and the outer. So I drew inspiration from my practice as a yoga teacher and the ancient Vedic text and the traditional Chinese medicine theory. And I wanted to try and create an index through my work that corresponded to these traditions. So for the first soak stains, there's 7 colours, and colour was really important. And these 7 colours relate to the 7 chakras in the body. For the sculptural pieces, the materials again were really important, and this for me was the language in which I was trying to translate the inner energy of the body through the yoga pose. And the yoga pose was important because it stimulated a certain part of the body that again I was trying to reflect through these pieces. I was interested in bridging the gap between the horizontal plane and the vertical plane within my work by hanging pieces on the wall, but also having a kind of reflection or shadow on the ground. The other aspect that I wanted to play with was the fact that it was bridging painting, sculpture, performance and installation through my work. And this became difficult in lockdown and also not being able to show, but that was a really important part of my process. So I hope you enjoy and are intrigued to see it when it's finally up. Thank you.